October 18th, 2023 edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series brought to you by the National Urban League. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm East Coast Executives. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The Digital Career Success Series, DCSS, is a professional development series that helps members of our Urban League Young Professional chapters and other diverse job seekers develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers through digital platforms such as webinars, Facebook, and Instagram Live. The goal is to provide an opportunity for professional development right from one's computer, or in today's case for me, my phone. So I apologize if I look a little crazy, but I'm having some tech challenges. But anyway, if you want to know more about the NUL Jobs Network, just visit nuljobsnetwork.com. So today's DCSS, I'm really excited about. It's Upskilling. It features Amanda Hunter and Jamie Campbell, and it's brought to you by the National Urban League in partnership with American Airlines. As the global leader in commercial aviation, American Airlines must carry the banner around the world for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Man, this is going to be a good one today, but let me introduce you to our two guests. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
And I'm excited to have you here today. Having some
Thank
tech
you.
problems, as I had mentioned, but I think we're going to get through it. Would you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I am very excited to be with you all today and to contribute to the conversation about upskilling. I currently work as an executive recruiter for Korn Ferry, and I work primarily on board and CEO engagements across industries, a mix of corporate boards and nonprofit boards in some instances, and really enjoy all that work entails. Before coming to Korn Ferry and a career in executive search, I spent many years working as an attorney, a mix of public and private practice, and decided to make that pivot because there were a lot of things that I enjoyed about practicing law that I thought I could use in a different way. And really excited to be with you all today and talk more about upskilling. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for accepting the call. We sincerely appreciate it. All right, I'm going to move over a little and introduce you guys to Dr. Jamie Campbell. Jamie, Penn State's own, the Bronx's own, a couple things. Just tell us about yourself, please.
Well, that's enough right there. But first, I will say thank you for having me on this afternoon. This is really a great opportunity, and I'm excited to talk with you all. But as was said, I am Jamie Campbell, and yes, I am Dr. Jamie Campbell, so we'll correct that. But I serve as the Associate Dean for Diversity Enhancement Programs in the Smale College of Business, working with underrepresented populations, and that is all aspects of it: recruitment, retention, and just making sure that we're engaging through all areas of that. So. Been here in Happy Valley for a little while now, but I'm more excited about getting to this conversation and just looking forward to great dialogue today. So thank you for having me.
Man, we're really excited to have you as well. In thinking about this session, when I reached out to the two of you, I just thought it would be excellent to kind of blend some of Amanda's C-level and board level expertise with some of your, entry-level engagement and things of that nature. And I just thought it would be a good blend for a conversation about upskilling. So let's get started.
Brandon, great.
All right. So, again, I'm having some challenges here in regards to what I'm seeing, but let's get started. It's what is upskilling? So, Amanda, I believe we're going to lead with you on this.
Sure. So, in thinking about upskilling, and I'll have to tell you, the lawyer in me cannot resist giving a disclaimer at the beginning. All of the opinions and things that I share in my personal capacity, not in my capacity as an employee of Korn Ferry. So you got me today with all of my gems and 2 cents, just from my personal perspective. So this is my definition of upskilling. I would consider upskilling anything that you look at in terms of enhancing your career portfolio, your skills, your abilities to achieve a specific goal. So a lot of it will have to do with why you are undertaking the upskilling itself. But generally speaking, anything from additional coursework to specific skills or anything that you feel would enhance your ability to advance your career, I would put under the umbrella of upskilling. So it's very general, but that's kind of a very broad definition.
No, I think that's a great definition because it is what it is, right? You know, you're looking to you're upskilling for a reason, of course,
Yes.
but I definitely think that definition is apropos for the conversation. Jamie, I'd like for you to chime in as well, sir.
So I think when we talk about upskilling, it is about going in and seeing what else you can do. It is about obtaining those necessary credentials to get a little bit more of an enhancement. And like what Amanda said, it's about where you see the need to go. So it's about what's next. It's not about, oh, I'm just going to have it and that's it. It is about continuing to expand that knowledge base. It is continually expanding that upliftment of yourself. So once you get whatever degree, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later in terms of degrees versus certification, but how can you position yourself to be in a better space? And so when you're looking at upskilling, it's all of these different pieces of engagement.
You know, engagement is the key, I believe. We're going to go to the next slide. But you know, I think engagement is extremely important as we have this conversation.
Well, if you want to talk about the engagement, and when we pull a slide, you'll see what we're talking about when we talk about reskilling. Because in this day and age, we have to do a lot of the reinventing of self. And so it's not necessarily how you stay or how you grow. It's about what you want to do next, because you may grow in one position, but then you might say, I want to do something different. And we used the example of a painter or a chef becoming a painter. That's a reskilling. It's still, got the great motor skills, got the great creativity, right? Because you've seen those cakes, right? You've seen what they look like when they come out, but now you're putting it on canvas. So you're reskilling, you're changing what you're doing, whereas the upskilling is just learning new styles, learning new abilities, and it's through either the education or apprentice. And the most important thing for the more seasoned in the crowd like myself, age is not a factor. You never stop learning. So this is where this engagement comes in.
Yeah, indeed. You know what? And that's the key, right? Kind of knowing what it is that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're getting a preview of a slide to come where we're talking about the why. It's probably maybe a good segue into that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the next slide, please. All right, Amanda, I'm going to let you touch on this slide.
Sure. So before we get to the why, as we talked about, as Jamie alluded to, there are lots of different ways that you can undertake upskilling, many of those driven by what your objectives are. But if you're looking at it and thinking immediately, I know that I need to engage in further education, or I need to enhance my skills in a way that's going to be more than just practical, there are many sources that you can use for upskilling. LinkedIn is a great resource. There are many courses that you can take. I believe they have a premium program that will give you many options for that. Khan Academy is another resource that you can sign up for without a great expense, and you can find lots of coursework there that will allow you to enhance your skills and upskill. And then just a wonderful free resource that I use all the time, and I imagine I'm a good company, is Google. There are many things that you can enhance your portfolio with just by a simple Google search. Certainly you'll when using that resource and any other, be sure that you tested the validity and accuracy of what you're getting. But just from a place to start, if you're looking at it and saying, well, I know there are certain areas that I want to enhance, don't look at it and assume that you have to immediately go into thinking about how you can afford it. Some of it will be free and available to you that you can take advantage of, as well as if you are in a position with a company, you could definitely look at your internal resources through learning and development resources that your human resources department may offer, and just kind of explore that after you're very clear on what your objectives are and why you're undertaking it.
And it's also
yeah, I was going to say let's talk about that for a second. And I'm sorry, Jamie. Like the Khan Academy and GCF Learn Free and things like that. What types of skills how can you leverage that platform? What is it that people should anticipate finding there on that platform?
Well, I think it goes back to what Amanda was saying of knowing what you want to do. So to pick on something small that we talk about, like I talk about with my students here and with other folks a lot, is Excel. If you can go into like a Khan Academy or to a LinkedIn and just begin to work on those Excel skills, that's something you can put on your resume that stands out, that people want to see and talk about, as opposed to just saying, oh, I can do Microsoft Office. Because we kind of all are engaged. We all do Microsoft Office. I'm just trying to stop using the word engaged so much, but we try to all use Microsoft Office. But if you can specifically say, I work in Excel, I can do this with a pivot table, I can demonstrate these different capabilities from working Excel, and some of it is free. It's right out there, and it's beyond the MS Office just tutorials, but it's going in and engaging. And where what I was getting ready to say initially was, when you're going through your HR department, be aware that they may have resources for you to do it, like Amanda was saying, but always make sure you know what the outcome will be. Because some organizations say, if we give you funding for this certification, you have to stay for X amount of years, or you have to do X amount of work. So they look at the relationship between service and what they're paying for, because of course the organization wants to get something out of it. But if it's something that you can get and you're already looking to stay there for another year or two, why not take advantage of it? It's almost like looking at that tuition reimbursement. And so, Ken, you talked about me at the early part of it. For early career, this is where you want to start working on these credentials. This is where you want to start getting engaged so you can have it. So by the time you're ready to transition into a new career, you'll have credentials behind you and you didn't have to pay for it. You learned how to use the system to your advantage.
You know, sometimes I think, people wonder where they need to go, but I think they can leverage professional organizations and even peers and mentors and sponsors to kind of just gather additional information about what direction is the industry moving in, and where do they need to go to acquire the necessary information and skills to upskill in their career. Do you have any advice? I know you're working with students as well. Do you have any advice on kind of how you lead and guide them in that situation?
Well, I think you said it though. You talked about the upskill of the professional networking. And one of the things that we've been talking about, or at least Amanda and I had focused on, was the hard side of it, which you just mentioned was just as important, was the soft skill side of it. Being able to talk to people at your level or above your level to learn new things and how to engage, how to network. What is the culture like? Like, those are skills that you develop over time. But if you have someone that guides you in that, associations like, and I work in the business college, so like the accounting societies, or even the alumni networks, where you can reach out to people that are lawyers, and you can reach out to people that have PhDs and say, I don't understand how to do this. That soft skill navigation, that up level, because it's a different level as you begin to move up through different stages of your career. So if you're able to do that through those networks of those affinity groups, those alumni networks, that's the soft skills part. And what we focused on a lot here, and I don't think we realized it when we were talking about it, was the hard skill side of it. But that soft skill upskilling is incredible, because not everyone can do it. And it is a science. It is something you learn how to do over time. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point.
Yeah, I'd add to that, just to what you both were saying, that the networking piece is very beneficial to the upskilling part, because let's say, and I know for the third time we talked about the why, but let's just say the why is because you're looking at your industry and you're looking kind of at the landscape, and you're trying to sort out, as you mentioned, Ken, kind of what are the trends, or where should I be thinking about my career, and where should I be trying to enhance my skills so that I can advance. If you very thoughtfully are able to make those connections with others, maybe peers or others who are in the roles that you've identified, you can ask them directly, would you mind setting aside some time with me? Maybe we could have a conversation. I wouldn't make it a LinkedIn post to everybody to give me advice, but some very thoughtful, directed outreach to say, I really admire your career trajectory. Would love if you would spend some time with me so that I can share what some of my goals are and where you might see opportunities for growth for me through upskilling. And if you're able to do that using what Jamie's identified as those soft skills, to be able to do that, in a very authentic but meaningful way, I think that anyone who's in your network, who you've already fostered a good connection with, would be happy to do that with you. Obviously, you'll have to have given some thought to it beforehand to know what the specific request is, how they can help you. But that's a wonderful resource to use, because if it's someone who has a good vantage point and then can look at where your skills are, where there may be some room for some opportunities for growth, that's a wonderful way to engage in that as well.
You brought this up, and I never even thought about it as part of this conversation. But you probably don't want to just go to LinkedIn and put out a general question and ask for feedback because it's coming from so many places and so many points at career levels that it might not be advantageous for you to take it all in, right? So,
Right.
is there any structure? And I know you've kind of made a pivot career wise, right?
Yes.
But if you don't mind sharing, just from an upskilling standpoint or a reskilling standpoint, what was your process?
For after or before or throughout the whole part?
Yeah, let's
I'll
let's just talk about it, right?
Okay, okay. Well, I'll tell you. Actually, I'll give you the real way that I kind of undertook it. I looked at it as an opportunity. I didn't hate practicing law, and I think I will always maintain an active bar license. But I really thought, well, I believe that a legal education and legal practice gives you a lot of skills that are transferable. But I just wanted to see if I could repackage what I gained in a different way that would speak to the things that I enjoyed the most, which was critical thinking, working with the clients that I worked with, really taking their issues where they would, kind of lay out what their pain points were, and bringing that strategic thinking and critical thinking to it, as well as the person to person aspect of it. I absolutely knew that I'm someone who's a natural connector. And I wanted to say, okay, well, if I take all these things together, put them together in a way that will bring me fulfillment, what should I do? So I really was really intentional in thinking about it. Some of these resources, I saw someone said YouTube University, as well as LinkedIn and other things. I looked at profiles for different careers and different roles, but it actually came through a conversation with my twin sister. I just was telling her that I wanted to make a pivot or thought I might want to, and just told her what I thought I was good at and asked her what I was good at and what she would think, which I think is another useful thing to kind of maybe survey people who are closest to you and know you well. And she recommended executive search. So after that, I identified people in the field who I thought could give me information about what the role would entail. I reached out to some of them whom I did know and some whom I didn't know. And also through my network, I did what I mentioned to you. I said, kind of in a very tactful way, I'm thinking about making a career pivot. Here's what I think I offer. Do you know anyone that you could introduce me to? Is there anything that you could share with me from your experience and knowledge? And that's what led me to kind of make the move that I did in an intentional way. I will say it was not overnight, however. So if you're thinking about using this technique, give yourself time to do that, because much like what you've said in terms of the broad LinkedIn post, I would advise doing it from a standpoint of what you can offer as well. So not just who can I talk to, who can give me what I need in terms of information, thanks, bye. But try to figure out how you can foster some genuine connections, have something to offer when you're asking as well, and then leave time for you to process what you gathered, do additional research, additional upskilling if you need to before making the pivot. And that's the path that I took. But I think it's one that could be replicated fairly easily.
Yeah, I think when we were planning this out, I never even thought about the upskilling. Like the upskilling and pivot conversation are very much united at the hip, right?
Yeah.
Typically, people are upskilling to maybe pivot and not into, it might not even be to a new organization, but just within the career paths within your current organization, you just may want to make a shift. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a big piece of it. Jamie, before we go to the next slide, I'd like to speak to you about, so I'm just picturing me being in school and having a career that I wanted to pursue. And I was just so narrowly focused on that. But I think once you walk through the doors of an organization, you start to find out that there are other things that you may have interest in doing, or other skill sets maybe that you even like using better than the core group that you've studied to pursue, right? So how do you advise people, or what's your advice to individuals once they get in the door and start looking around?
Well, I think we're gonna repeat a lot of things that were said, because what Amanda said is actually what you should be doing. You should be talking to people. And I know, like, we like to text a lot, but the actual engagement, like, you will not understand the power of a cup of coffee or a simple cup of tea to talk to somebody about what they did. And when you talk about pivoting or moving or how do you get to different teams, when you meet someone that you see what they're doing and you like what they're doing, it is truly asking them how they got there, because they didn't get there overnight. They didn't wake up and come in that position. And even for me in the position that I am, I actually met someone who had a similar position at UGA, the University of Georgia. And I saw him in his position and said, wow, I like that. What did you do? And like literally we had a conversation, and it just so happened I was able to interview for a position similar here at Penn State. But the idea when you go into a company, it's not always about your base degree, whether you have the bachelor, the associate. It's about talking to people and saying, well, what certification did you get? What degree did you get next? Because some organizations are more concerned about what degree you have and then the certification. Others are more worried about the certification and then the degree. And even from a practical standpoint, from my experience, the reason why I got the next degree at each level was because someone said, oh, you're great, but if you had this degree, we could hire you. And it would be, I have all this experience and this degree as well. Okay, so I'm going to make it so you can't ever say no to me again. So I'm going to get that degree. And then when they said, oh, well, you're great, but you don't necessarily have this degree. Well, I went and got the next. And so it's about how you look for what's next for you. It's about how you see what you want to do. So when I'm talking to whether they be a first year student, a PhD student, or an MBA student, I'm talking to them about what is it that you want to do? Where's your passion? And then do you see someone in that organization that's doing what you want to do? I have students who are business owners, who are, I have one that's a yoga instructor. She's about to become like a full yogi, but she's working on her MBA. And she's like, this is what I wanted to do, but that enhances her because when she talks to recruiters, that tells her she's something more than the degree and the basic certification. She stepped out of her comfort zone, but got something that she was passionate about. But then she had the necessary qualifier or the degree, the certification to say that she was true to that. That dedication means a lot to recruiters. It means a lot to the organization because all organizations want to appear well-rounded. So when I'm talking to students, I'm always talking to them to engage and talk with people, not only that look like them, not from their background, but to get a full scope. Talk to folks who have been worked overseas. See if you want to do it. And you mentioned me being from the Bronx initially. Well, think about that conversation that I have with somebody from Saudi, or think about the conversation that I have with somebody from Nigeria that's really in the business or really doing work. When we're talking about diversity, we're talking about so many different things, but it's the idea of scaling, the idea of saying, how do I get to that point? So it's always about having these conversations and then building your path based on not only the positive or the positive or the success, but some of the mistakes that people have made. So you can learn from it and you won't repeat the same thing.
Man, that's great feedback. We're going to move to the next slide. I could stay here on this one forever, so I want to check myself and allow us to move to the next slide. So we're talking about what is your why. So either one of you guys want to jump in on this?
Amanda, I think
Sure.
space, yeah.
Sure. I'll jump in with that. It's near and dear to me because I think that that will be the guiding light for you as you undertake the upskilling, whatever you choose to undertake. I think your why could be a number of different reasons. It could be that you, from a sense of personal fulfillment, may say, I want to learn another language, or I want to get an advanced degree, or I want to have some stretch opportunities at work. It could be purely because you want to be challenged in a new way, which I certainly relate to as a student of personal development. I think that's a great why, that in and of itself, if that's what your why is, your reason. But it could also be because you may have had a recent, maybe internal or external opportunity that you pursued and you didn't get it, or you were close to securing it, but maybe just fell short. That's a wonderful opportunity to say, okay, what else could I add to my portfolio that would give me that role that I'm looking for? So the reason why could be that you're looking to advance in your career. It could also be as a result of feedback that you've received internally. So maybe you've had a recent performance review, and just as Jamie mentioned, someone said, well, if you had this credential or this degree, you could move on to the next level. So that could be the reason why, is that you've gotten specific feedback that says, we see great and high potential here. We'd love to see you advance. If you could upskill in this way, we could give you that opportunity. And then lastly, well, I won't say lastly, there are lots of other reasons, but another driver that I think, and I won't speak for Jamie, but I think it's a perfectly good reason why, is if you see a financial benefit, to say, if I were able to enhance my abilities and skills, I could garner more in terms of income. And that could be a reason why. You can find metrics to support that. So I think as we were talking about the ways to do the upskilling, I think all of that is driven by the reason why. So depending on what your end goal is or your next goal is, that will determine what resources you use to get there.
No, Amanda, I think that's great to point that out, because all of the things that you talk about are very important because they are internal, but each one allows you to grow and develop, and that's what's key. And like we said on this, there's nothing wrong with that in terms of saying I want a better outcome. This is why you do these things, so you can have these better outcomes, whether it is to have a shorter work day, whether it is to have a better financial standing. All of these things count, and we can tell you the countless times we've seen that slide where it talks about you'll earn this much over a lifetime if you graduate from high school, college, and so on and so on. But what they miss is what happens when you get these additional certifications. That's more room for you to maneuver.
So I'm looking at the slide here, and it's speaking about money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let's tap into it, because I know some of the people on the stream today are asking, all right, so I'm upskilling, but how's that work? So Jamie, it sounds like you were headed in that direction. So financially, is that the reason to upskill?
Okay, so truthfully, okay, so I'm supposed to be an educator. How do you ask me that question? Like, I'm not, because I'm supposed to say yes, truthfully, yes. No, like, that's you know what? All right. So,
yeah. Hey, Jamie, listen. Every time I heard as a child, you need to go to school so you can get money.
You need to go to school to get money. You need to go to school to get the degree, right? The degree brings the check. Each time you get a degree, it's a step. And so it's so from and Amanda, you gave me the disclaimer earlier, but from the educator aspect, I'm supposed to say you're supposed to do it from the love of learning. But from the practical aspect, the more degrees you have, that's something else, someone can't take away from you. So whatever happens during whatever crisis, like we all came through the crisis fairly well, I hope, you can always go back and say, okay, I have this degree, which makes me more marketable than the next person. I have this certification, which gives me a leg up on somebody else. And to be honest, as we grow and evolve, it's not gonna, it's good if you have that certification in your field, but it's also good if you have things outside of that. Because organizations, as we become more of a global society, organizations want to be able to look at you and say, oh yeah, well, I can send Amanda here, I can send Jamie there, I can send David or Kenneth or Dory to these individual places, because they can talk about something other than the work. When we get outside of the United States, we talk about business differently. We talk about engagement differently. And you're making yourself more marketable by being able to engage and talk with folks just on another level. So yes, it is about the check. Yes, it is about being able to say, I'm going to be able to take care of my family because I made this investment. Remember, you said, I was told to go to school to get this extra money, to get this money. That's an investment. The way you see the residual, the way you see it pay off is when you keep going for those next positions. And again, no one can take your degree or your certification away from you. Certifications can expire, but they can't be taken from you. You've earned that. So you make it work for you. So for me, I will always say, when I talk to my kids and I'm talking to them about advancement for a degree, and I don't just mean my biological kids, but my students, I'm always telling them, if you have it, you will be in the running a lot faster than if you don't. And it could be the same thing like we talk about with our parents and our grandparents. Remember, they came in training folks who surpassed them because they had a degree. Remember, they got through all of this stuff. They were the hard workers. They were the backbones of these organizations. And people had a degree and was able to move faster than them. Well, what I tell my kids is, you need to be in that position. You need to earn these degrees. You need to do things differently. And then when it comes time, you can pull up your family.
Love it. I love it. It's the Digital Career Success Series, Urban League Jobs Network with Amanda Hunter, Jamie Campbell. This and all of our Digital Career Success Series episodes are also on the Urban League Jobs Network YouTube channel. Amanda, So you see people consistently making major moves, board level, C-suite moves. What's the motivation and what's the upscaling signature for that?
That's a good question. I think that in my personal experience, a lot of it has to do in terms of moves that are made. Sometimes it really is just looking for the next opportunity. Sometimes you might see someone who has had very significant responsibility. They've had the ability to manage a P&L. They've been exposed to their board of directors. They've had engagement with the CEO, but they've never sat in that seat. And so their reason why could be that they want to have the ability to make the decisions and sit in the role. That, as we mentioned, in terms of promotion, is a reason why, is sometimes it. Sometimes you might see someone who wants to make a move because they have a certain affinity for a different industry. Not as often. Most times for the executives that I've seen, that I've worked with, they've pretty much been firmly rooted in a specific industry by the time they've gotten to those C-suite levels. But some may want to kind of broaden their portfolio a bit, so they may stay in the same industry, but for a different company if there's an opportunity there. But I think it varies. What I've seen a lot of people is just, as is human nature, people looking at their next level of development and opportunity, and they see a way to do that through switching to a different role. Something else I wanted to mention, though, you mentioned the money piece. Something I thought of is that also you could also see it as really planting seeds. So it may be that you make this investment in yourself through upskilling, through a degree or a credential, but it also could come into the format of maybe attending conferences. If you're in a certain industry that you really enjoy, really, and that's a good feeling, I'll say. If you found what you like to do and you're in that industry and you see, a lot of room for growth and opportunity, and you fully immerse yourself in it, some of the seeds that you'll plant in terms of upskilling may come through attending conferences that may be a little bit farther down the road for you in terms of the attendees. But if you can find yourself in those spaces and can engage with people who are at that next level or two levels away from where you're trying to get, just being exposed to the conversations, some of the workshops you'll attend, the plenary sessions, you'll hear terminology and trends that you may not have been exposed to. And in a great situation, you'll make some connections that could prove valuable. So let's just say you do that this year and you continue doing that as much as you can. Maybe you can get your company or organization to support you, maybe financially, or if you can do that on your own. You plant those seeds then, and then you say, well, I'm going to go to this conference and I meet Jamie and I meet Ken. And over time, you keep in touch. Well, let's just say you continue upskilling and you continue building your network, and hopefully you become an expert in something. You really, really honed your ability in this field. Well, who knows what opportunities will come your way? You may determine that through entrepreneurship, you want to go into consulting. Well, you've already planted all these seeds with all of these people that you've connected with. You've enhanced your knowledge of the industry, and then you've gotten that experience from what you've been doing for those years leading up to it. So I say that from a money perspective, you never know what streams can come from some of the seeds that you're planting with a clear understanding of why you're doing it and a focus ahead on how you can get there.
Man, I love that. Go ahead, Jamie.
No, I was co-signing. I was just saying that's great. And I'm kind of seeing some of the stuff in the chat. But I think all of that is so important because your network, what you do later, and doing the little things like keeping in touch and like engaging. And you don't have to meet everyone at the conference. You only need one person. And then work that all the way through. So I think that was great. It was brilliant.
And so just speaking about that in general, I think, having the strategy when you do, so it's an upskilling strategy, right?
Absolutely.
If you do attend the conference, who is it that you must meet? Do you have 3 people that you said, I'm not leaving here without at least introducing myself and getting the opportunity to share a future conversation with these 3 people? And sometimes that's the thing for you. You might run around and meet 20 people that maybe can't add value or the value that you need. And that's great to meet all the people, but if you're strategic and have a strategy about the way you're approaching it, I think it helps.
Yeah,
that's it,
absolutely. I think it starts with your reason for attending. So I try to, for the times that I go to a conference, what do I hope to come back with? And that can be, very esoteric or very specific. I want to meet this person who's a panelist. I'm going specifically to meet them. But I would say, in terms of the 3 people, if you're clear on why you're attending and what you hope to get from it, if you've identified maybe 2 or 3 sessions that you really want to attend, 2 or 3, and you really are engaged with them, I would go for the panelists or the speakers, and but have something of substance to add. So a thoughtful question, an opportunity to say, something that you mentioned really resonated with me. Some work that I've been doing kind of touches on that, if that's the case, or something that you can add, because as you can imagine, the panelists and speakers are meeting a whole lot of people. And it's not that you necessarily have to be memorable among the other hundreds of people, but that you want to be able to say, okay, there's a genuine interest here. And many of them at the end of the sessions will say, keep in touch, much like we'll do today. Keep in touch, here's my information. And I have to believe that not everyone is going to do that. So if you make that first introduction, say why you're interested, then when you follow up and say, oh, as I met you, Ken, at the conference, loved your panel on such and such. As we discussed, I've been working on such and such. If you have some time, would love to schedule maybe 20 or 30 minutes to chat with you about the next phase of what I'm doing and learn more about your research or your work in that area. And the other two, I would say, would be probably peers, anyone else who is doing what you're doing, so you can build your network.
But I think, Amanda, one of the things you said, just research, taking the time to learn about the person that you want, even if you saw them and you never saw them before, and you said you heard them at the panel, said, I'm going to talk to them. When you come back to them, to be able to say, hey, Amanda, I saw you, I saw that you went to school here, I went to school there, finding the little connections to make something worth, and then being patient. When we talk about emailing people, a lot of times we expect them to respond quickly. Sometimes they won't be able to, and sometimes you may have to follow up. So this is the soft upskill approach, where you have to follow up with them sometimes 2, sometimes 3 times before they come back and say, oh, I'm so sorry I missed it. May not be because they didn't want to, it just might be because of what their schedule is like, especially if they're on the speaking circuit, if they're a panelist. If they're general employees, you never know what life may bring. So you have to, or general folks that you just meet at a conference, not necessarily just general employees, but folks that you meet at a conference where you want to talk to later. So just give them some grace and give yourself some grace to say, okay, I know they're busy like I'm busy. And then we kind of work from there.
I can appreciate that. Listen, I know you guys worked really hard to come up with this degree versus certification bullet point slide. So I want to touch base on that before we jump into a Q&A. And by the way, please leave your questions in the Q&A. We will try to get to, if not all of them, most of them during the Q&A segment of the program. So let's start it out. Degree versus certification. Who wants it? So
I think I'll start it because I saw a question in the chat and it said about how many is too many. And I think that was a great question or a great conversation piece, because it said, it talks about when you see these people that have like, ABC, EFG, HIJ, all these things behind their name, how many is too many? I don't know. I think that's a personal preference, because people always say, I'm proud of what I got. And they should be. How many is too many? If it goes off to the next, if you need another business card to put all your credentials there, too many. But usually you just want to have maybe 2 or 3 behind your name to be succinct. You want to be able to have some talking points on it. So that was just one thing I saw when we're talking about the degree versus certification. That crosses over on the certification point, but I do know folks with like 2 masters and an MBA and a PhD and all of that. So I just wanted to say that before we lost track. But the degree is always going to be probably going to be the more costly when you look at them between the certification. And then, of course, there's always accreditation, making sure what it is. And the unique thing about the degree is always going to be your last degree is first, right? So you no longer say, like, I no longer have to say I have a master's, but that I have a PhD. And then the degree, usually as you're walking through that path, whether it be an associate's or a bachelor's, there's usually an internship or an apprenticeship where it's kind of built into the curriculum straight away, or it's encouraged through the curriculum straight away. So you still have that engagement. It's something where you have to make a choice. Some schools, some colleges, you have to have an internship before you graduate. Some have it set where you have to have an apprenticeship before they allow you to graduate. And that's with the number of hours that goes into it to work through. Accreditation, as I said, is always going to be important because you want your degree to have some weight to it. So I think for those 4 pieces, that's what makes degree different. Amanda, I didn't know if you want to do the certification or you wanted me just to keep going on the certification point.
Sure, you can keep going, or I'll chime in. Happy to do
Okay,
either.
fair enough. So the certification with the length of time, and I'm looking at time too. So the certification with the length of time is usually a shorter period. Some last a year, some last 6 months, some are even like 8 weeks. So it's just so, and then it's different. So that time frame is different. With the source, usually there are many different organizations, like we talked about with the Khan Academies, Google, and LinkedIn. If you pay, they are that. They will tell you what you can put. They'll give you a little badge you can put on your email and everything else, and you go along with that accordingly. In terms of the titling, and that was the kind of the question, how many do you put on? I think for me, I would only put the last one I received, and I would use the rest as talking points. So when I'm engaging Amanda and she's telling me all of the accolades that she has, I'm going to make sure to say at some point, oh, well, I'm this, I've gotten this, because it may be where we find some synergy, or it might be something that she's doing. Like if she's working in healthcare and I've got an MPH or I've got a certification there, I'm going to want to bring us together so that I can make sure she understands I'm bringing value to the conversation, that I'm not just taking her practicality. So we want to make sure we get it. And then the demonstrated and proven ability. You have to take tests with these certifications, and they're not easy. The test that I took for and I do have a certification, I'm a certified diversity executive. That test was incredible. So it was just, but you have to pay for it. Actually, I had the book. If I could find it really quick, I will show you. It's a thick book. You have to go through it. It is that engagement of making sure you study and making sure you're prepared. In some cases, you feel like you're studying for your degree. So that is how we look at the two base, and both are good. I saw someone say about trying to figure out which one is which. I think in this day and age going forward, it's going to be good to have both. So it's not just that you have a degree and not just that you have a certification. And enjoy, I know what you're talking about with the finances and dealing with the kids and everything, and that's important. It's about being able to do it in your space. So it's not taking extra pressure, not putting on extra things. It's about how you're able to do it at some time, in some time. And remember, this is not like a race. It doesn't just say you have to do it in this time frame. You can work as long as it takes. If it's one class here, if it's one certification piece here, most of the time you will have a time length that you can work within. And so you don't have to rush and go through it. And that's the difference with a degree. It's a 4 or 5 year process and you're done. With certifications, you might be able to say, I'm going to take this and I'm going to be able to take that slowly. Do it at your pace. So don't feel like you have to run somebody else's race. This is when you run your race.
The whole certification thing, there's some resources out there. I see the conversation in the chat has led to some conversation about finances and things of that nature. And I'm not saying for all of them, but like even through Black Box here at East Coast Executives, we offer Google IT certifications and at pretty much no cost. So I think sometimes you have to look and search for opportunities that may align with your current financial situation or look for ways to supplement that. But everything's not free. Some things are a challenge, and it does come down to kind of wanting it and finding a way to get it. But to the beginning of the conversation when we spoke about, it's possible that your current employer may even foot that bill for you. They do things like that. So find out and explore and find ways to connect through. So, all right. So let's go to the next slide, which I believe takes us into the Q&A segment. Am I correct here? Yes. All right. Listen, I was looking at some of these questions in the Q&A in advance, and wow, heavy questions out here. I'm going to start right here. Should Black professionals perfect the ability to code switch or fit in and not appear different? From an upskilling conversation, I'm not sure kind of where that applies, but I think the conversation should be answered to the best of our ability. Does either of you want to chime in on that?
So I think, and I just saw Elaine ask something similar, so I got the chat going. So when you talk about that part of code switching, right? Code switching is oftentimes something that we look at that you may or may not be bringing your whole self. Organizations now are talking about how you should bring your whole self to work every day. In that code switching, you understand how to behave. All of us here have had some parent or some grandparent or some aunt rap us on the knuckles about behaving. Act like you've been in public before. Well, at least that's what I got told a lot. But the idea of that is how to code switch, how to be. You understand how to act in different ways. There are different ways you're going to act at home, and that's for everybody. But when we talk in particularly African American circles, we talk about that idea of we have to code switch. There is not a piece of me that I don't bring. And some of that is because I can, some of that is because I'm comfortable. Someone talked about being able to be comfortable in yourself, but it's a part of learning the upskill. It's a part of learning what's appropriate. It's learning the culture, right? We choose to, for me, primarily, this is not my chosen attire, right? There's nothing like a great hood to be in or some good jeans or some good boots. But I know in my culture at work, this is what needs to be seen. This is how I need to act, or this is how I need to, because somebody mentioned about dress. I choose to dress this way. I'm comfortable dressing this way. But again, it is learning each process, learning what counts, how to maneuver, how to be a part of it, but also being true to who you are, whether it be about your orientation, whether it be about your identity, whether it be about your style, learning how to build that into where you work. That's a part of upskilling, and I think it's necessary. But there's not a day that people don't understand who I am or where I'm from. And
I can appreciate I can appreciate that. You know what? Let's bring the executive search professional in the room. So there's a question here, and it basically is asking, what if you have the certs but no skills? How do they navigate that?
Well, I wish I could tell you that the certification alone will be enough. In my humble opinion, you need to have the experience. Now, I think it depends on what your immediate goal is. So if you're looking for, let's say you're doing a career pivot and you're going into a completely new field and you have the certification, you may be able to, if you have other experience in another field, you may be able to highlight what's transferable to, the role that you're trying to get to. You add that with your certifications, and hopefully you won't come in the most entry level. But in actuality, you're going to need to have some demonstrable experience if you're trying to start at a certain level. The way to get that doesn't have to be, and I don't love telling people to do work for free or for giving their skills away, but if you're truly passionate about what you're doing and you have a genuine interest, you may be able to say, find someone who is doing what you want to do, offer to work with them, offer your services. You have the certification, so you have something to add. So you're not just coming, saying, hey, I want you to give me an opportunity so I can take this and, get a better job. But you're saying, hey, I can bring my transferable experience. I can bring these certifications that I have. I can add value here. What I'd like to get from it is additional experience that I can add to my resume, my portfolio. So if you have both, I would go back to the network. I would probably, in getting the certification, maybe you were in class with some others who may have been seeking the same thing. You may have had professors or instructors you can reach out to. You can also use Google or LinkedIn to find professionals in your area. Maybe there are meetups. You'll find them a champion for networking and making genuine connections. So I wish I could tell you that you don't need the experience, but in the role that I sit in, if I'm thinking about trying to recommend someone to a client who can come in and they want to deliver, you're going to need some experience. So it's not a barrier that can't be overcome, but you should really be trying to work on both if you can.
Yeah, sure. I think that's great advice, and you probably have to do a real deep dive and say, when do I stop just acquiring certifications and really go out and start acquiring actual work experience, and kind of putting the same commitment behind that journey as well, and then merge the two at a later time, right?
Absolutely.
So I definitely appreciate that feedback. Okay, I saw this question in here, and I wasn't going to ask it, but now I'm going to, because I think someone may have received this as an interview question. So if someone asked you, who are you without your current title or roles, what would you say? And I want to pose that to both of you without getting too far in. I mean, I know both of you are really established professionals, but like, what would be your quick answer to that?
Oh,
At
well,
which at this point, at this current point, because like, are you talking about early career? Because see, that has different answers, right?
I don't know. I think the framework remains the same.
Okay. So I
I ooh, go on,
Like
Jamie.
I'm,
You
I'm
ready to jump in?
so I'm listening to Amanda, and I've listened to her throughout, and I see she's a connector, right? And she's a
You stole my
networker.
answer.
So yeah, so I'm thinking you would go in that direction, but talk to us.
Absolutely. I will say that was the answer I was going to give. I would say connector and strategist. The title for me, and I think that's because I've gotten to be a certain age. It's not so much about the title because I feel that the work that I do, the contribution that I make to the world or to my work, isn't about the title, but the feeling. And the things that give me the most energy are the things that allow me to be a strategist and a connector. And I bring authenticity to both of them. So whether that's through practicing law or research or any other thing I entail, even just this experience, I say this with all sincerity, just even opportunities like these, they speak to who I am and what I hope to leave as my mark on the world, over the next however many years. But that's how I would describe myself.
Dr. Campbell.
I would always say I'm a teacher at heart, right? I'm always an educator. I'm always a teacher. I'm always trying to help people get to where they want to go. So whether I had this title or whether I was back at a boys club or whether I was working, doing whatever with nothing, I would still be trying to teach people how to get better. I think that me being a teacher is probably the primary focus, and I'm a mentor. Like I take those titles seriously. So if you say, who am I without that? That's what I am. That's where I stand. And that genuine concern and that hopefully showing someone else how to get there. Like, because if I say I did it, then they can say they can do it. So it's just making sure I'm getting my kids ahead of me.
Well, excellent. Yeah, if that question was asked, Ms. Jackson, in an interview setting, I think you take a hard lean towards being the solution provider to the person that asked the question or the industry or organization that you're with. I think it's a great question. I might start using it in some interview settings, but I definitely think you have to take the person that asked the question in mind as you answer, especially if it was in that setting. So thank you for asking that. We really appreciate it. All right, Jamie, this one's right down your alley here. Do you think there are still job opportunities for recent grads, class of 2022, without going for additional education?
So I do right now, yes, right. So I think there are opportunities out there. Are they tough to find? Absolutely. Are you going against a lot of people who are competing at your same level? Yes. But I think how you get there is by making sure you bring something unique to the table, whether it is the fact that you're an educator or you're a connector. How you tailor your answers to the questions during the interview can be that which gets you over. You don't always have to give them that straight direct. It would be good if you gave them the straight direct answer, but it's always better when you can add a little seasoning to it, when you can make it somewhere more about you, where you can take their question and give them an answer that not only reflects you in it, but also gives them a solution, in which you just said about giving a solution to it is what makes you the best candidate. It doesn't, and we've been talking about certifications and degrees, but Amanda said, the experience, demonstrating your learned experience, not only in the classroom, but outside of it, gives you a leg up. So yes, there are opportunities out there, but I can't simply say, oh yeah, they're everywhere and it's easy. They're not, because we're all looking for a set number of jobs or a set number of career paths. And so we have to be mindful that the competition is heavy, but they're out there.
Indeed, indeed. So last question here. Even with a good portfolio and extensive experience, what will be the red flag for employers? And I just want to chime in. I'm going to ask both of you to kind of chime in as well. I'm a recruiter by trade. If you're going in looking for the red flag, then you may be the red flag. Listen, everything's not going to be a fit for everyone. You're not going to get every job opportunity that you present yourself for, but you have to keep finding the right situation for you. So I just wanted to share that. I just think you might want to approach it with a different mindset. Amanda, any thoughts on this?
Yes, I would say the same. It's so cliche, but you're interviewing the organization as well. So, in terms of going into it, think of yourself as someone who has a lot to offer, but that you're also with a critical eye looking at the organization and how you'll fit into it. So certainly in terms of red flags, I imagine there could be any number of them. But I would, just like Ken said, I would maybe shift your focus from wondering about whether or not something in your portfolio will be seen as a red flag, because if it's not a fit, it may be for good reason that serves you. If for some reason you don't get that opportunity, and this is not just a lot of positive thinking, I mean sincerely to say, if it's not a fit, it may be for some reason that you may never help. Go into it assuming and believing that you have a good portfolio to offer. See if what they have to offer aligns with what you're looking for, and then just go for it.
Jamie, 30 seconds, chime in with us.
Well, 30 seconds. And then I'll just simply say Amanda said it all. I think when you're looking at it, just make sure that you don't take it personal. It is hard. Now, I know it's business. So everybody says business isn't personal, but it is. So it's hard to take that rejection. But sometimes maybe you're just not meant to be there, and that's okay. Be observant of the questions that you're being asked. Listen to everything Amanda just said and follow through with that.
Excellent. Closing words. And also, please let the attendees know how they can stay connected to the work of Amanda Hunter and Dr. Jamie Campbell.
Sure. So closing words would just be, if you have determined that there is a goal that you want to reach and you think upskilling is the way to do it, go for it. Just be clear at the beginning about, as much as you can, and it might change over time, be clear about what goal you're trying to reach. Try to get as much information as you can through your network and your own research about the path or paths to get there, and then go for it. I would be happy to keep in touch with anyone who's attended. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm on there all day, every day, so my LinkedIn profile is here. You can also email me, and I have truly enjoyed these questions and this opportunity.
Jamie Campbell.
So I would say the same thing. Please make sure to reach out to me if there's any questions, anything I can help with on LinkedIn, and of course at Penn State. That's the email I put in there. But I think the biggest thing I would tell you, as you're upskilling, just make sure you're running your race. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't let anyone else's trajectory impact what you're doing. We're all going to get to a finish line at some point, but it's how we get there. If you can get there with your construct, you will be much better for it. And I know it's hard to do when we talk about comparing ourselves to our peers, but just run your race. Just do it in your time frame. Everything will go as it's supposed to. And just stay with
it. I can appreciate that. Thank you so very much. All right, listen, I want to tell everyone, network diligently, network strategically. Listen, these were both referrals. Look at these professionals that came up. Ayanna Parsons introduced me to Amanda. Natasha Barnes introduced me to Jamie. But we're here today delivering professional development on the National Urban League platform, sponsored by American Airlines today. And this is why you network strategically and network with people that have similar mindsets than you. So speaking of similar mindsets, Be Your Own Advocate is our next digital career success series. I want you guys to chime in. That's going to be November 1st. Be sure to join us, because we'll speak about people being their own advocate in the workplace, and then you'll hear directly from experts on this topic. I'd like to thank Dr. Jamie Campbell, Amanda Hunter for joining us today. But most importantly, I'd also like to thank all of you for spending your time with us this afternoon. On behalf of the National Urban League, Wanda Jackson, Dory Brown, and the entire UL Jobs Networks team, I'm Kenneth L. Johnson. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. See you November 1st.